I want to start somewhere personal, not because it's easy to talk about, but because I think it's the only honest place to begin. I spent about 14 months with someone who pulled away every single time things got real. I know what it's like to sit across from someone and feel completely alone. I know what it's like to wonder if you're asking for too much just by needing them to look up from their phone. And I did everything wrong. I chased. I over-explained. I made myself smaller and softer and quieter, trying to close the distance. And then one day, I just stopped. Not dramatically, no speech, no long goodbye text I'd been drafting for 3 weeks. I just stopped. And what happened next was something I genuinely didn't see coming. Something that changed how I understood the whole dynamic. Because the story most people carry about avoidance, the one that says they don't feel it, they don't care, they moved on before you even packed your bags, and that story isn't just wrong, is the thing keeping people confused long after they should have found clarity. So let me tell you what's actually happening on their side, the side nobody shows you. Most people see it like this. The avoidant pulls away. You chase. They get more distant. You get more desperate. Eventually, you either collapse back into the cycle or you leave. And if you leave, the story you tell yourself is, they're fine. They probably feel relieved. They probably moved on before you did. They always needed less anyway. I believed that story too, for a really long time. But here's what I found when I actually dug into the research, and into my own experience, and started asking harder questions. The story is more complicated. The truth is more unsettling. And for a lot of you watching this right now, the truth is also the thing that's finally going to free you from the confusion you've been carrying around. So what the research from the attachment community consistently shows is that avoidants often feel something called separation elation right after a breakup. An initial rush of relief. The pressure to connect lifts. They feel like they're getting themselves back. That independence that felt suffocated, it suddenly floods back. And this is the part most people miss. That relief is real. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't exist. It does. Unlike anxious types who panic immediately after a split, avoidants often feel relief first. They tell themselves they're fine. But that relief is temporary. Temporary. That word matters. Because what happens after the relief is where the actual psychology lives. And it's the part most videos skip right over because it's messy and uncomfortable and doesn't fit neatly into a redemption story or a villain story. Attachment theorists describe something called deactivating strategies. Thought patterns and behaviors that minimize closeness and push attachment needs underground. Avoidants might fixate on a partner's flaws, create distance, or end things entirely just to feel autonomous again. But here's the thing. Those strategies don't eliminate the underlying need for connection. They just bury it. Not gone. Underground. There's difference. Right after a breakup, they throw themselves into activity. New projects, new people, busier schedules. Fraley and Shaver actually documented this. It's not a character flaw. It's a nervous system doing exactly what it was wired to do. But you can only keep something buried for so long. Suppressed emotions eventually come back up, usually triggered by loneliness or stress, or just catching a random reminder of you. Researchers call it delayed emotional processing. The feelings surface later rather than sooner. Later, not never. And this is what nobody tells you when you're 3 weeks post-breakup and spiraling. They're not fine in the way you think they're fine. They're running. And what they're running from is starting to catch up. Okay, here's where it gets genuinely fascinating. And honestly, this is the part that changes everything. Research found that avoidant adults often long for an ex-partner after separation, but only once they believe the relationship is safely over. Distance makes them miss what intimacy once threatened. Read that again slowly. They only long for you once they believe you're safely gone. Not while you were chasing. Not when you were sending the 2 a.m. message. Not when you were explaining yourself for the 100th time. The longing activates when the threat of actual intimacy is removed. When your absence feels permanent, not just a pause. This isn't romantic. I want to be clear about that. This isn't proof they secretly loved you and just needed space. It's evidence of a nervous system that was wired from childhood to treat closeness as dangerous and distance as safe. Avoidant attachment starts early. Caregivers who are emotionally unavailable, inconsistent, dismissive. A kid learns fast that showing vulnerability doesn't reliably lead to warmth, so they adapt. They become fiercely self-reliant, emotionally distant, experts at suppressing the thing they actually need most. So when you truly leave, what happens inside them isn't sudden love, it's the beginning of a reckoning. The mechanisms they use to keep you at arm's length are still running, but now there's nothing left to distance from, and the system starts to short-circuit. And get this, avoidance often converts suppressed emotions into physical symptoms, headaches, stomach issues, restlessness. They don't always know that's what's happening, so they're not sitting in their apartment missing you and being honest about it. They're irritable, they're tired, their body is carrying what their mind refuses to acknowledge. They go to the gym harder, they work longer, they fill every single hour with something. Not because life is good, because stillness is where the feeling lives, and they learned a long time ago that the feeling isn't safe. This is the timeline most people don't understand. They look at the avoidant after 2 weeks, thriving on social media, already getting dinner with someone new, and they think they don't feel it. None of it mattered. But 2 weeks is nothing. Roughly between 12 and 24 months later, something can shift. Maybe they see you flourishing with someone else. Maybe enough time passes that the idea of you still waiting becomes implausible. And at that point, a long-dormant attachment system can snap awake. A year. Sometimes 2. That's how long the suppression can hold. And when it breaks, it doesn't break quietly. Let me tell you what actually happens internally during that window, because I've talked to enough people on both sides of this to know how it plays out. First few weeks, they feel genuinely free. This isn't performance. The cortisol that spiked every time you needed something from them has dropped. The threat of engulfment is gone. They feel like themselves again. But then something subtle starts. If there's no reconciliation, they begin to ruminate, to idealize. Attachment researchers Amir Levine and Rachel Heller called it a phantom X situation, where an avoidant unconsciously puts a former partner on a pedestal, so every new person they meet gets unfairly compared to an edited, softened version of you. You become the ghost in every room. Which is kind of wild when you think about it. The fights are softer in memory. The needs that scared them seem smaller. What was unbearable closeness becomes, in retrospect, something beautiful they couldn't hold on to, and they can't come tell you that. The missing grows, and gets managed the exact same way everything else does. Suppressed, redirected, denied. You might never even know it's happening. Many people assume avoidants just move on without a second thought. And look, some do seem detached on the surface, but what often actually happens is that avoidants take a long time to register the loss at all. They go into self-isolation mode, sometimes before the relationship even ends. The awareness that they've lost you can hit months later. Now, here's the part that's going to be uncomfortable, because this is where I need you to stop using this information the wrong way. I've watched people hear everything I just said and immediately start building a strategy. Okay, so I just need to stay silent long enough and he'll miss me. I'll go no contact for 4 months and she'll realise what she lost. Stop. Please. That is not what this is about. And if that's the lens you're bringing to this, you're about to hurt yourself all over again. Their panic isn't proof you were the one. It's not proof they've changed. It's evidence that their avoidant strategies no longer provide the psychological safety they once did. There's a massive difference between an avoidant who misses the feeling of you and an avoidant who has actually done the work to become someone capable of loving you the way you need. Avoidants often come back out of nostalgia, not readiness. They remember the stability you offered, the emotional care they couldn't accept at the time. But if nothing has changed, no therapy, no real self-awareness, no actual emotional work, the same pattern repeats. That's not a second chance. That's the same relationship with a better trailer. Research shows dismissively avoidant individuals reveal less grief both initially and over time. The avoidant is able to bypass thoughts and feelings that would lead to vulnerability and dependency. Rather than feeling overwhelmed with sadness, they can feel almost nothing and just resume life. This is what you are dealing with the whole time. Someone who learned in childhood, in their body, before they had language for any of it, that the way to survive was to feel less, need less, risk less. And you came in loving them with your whole heart, and you could not understand why the more you gave, the further they went. It was never about how much you gave. It was about what giving means to their nervous system. Vulnerability for them isn't neutral. It's a threat. It exposes them to rejection, to engulfment, to failure. Early experiences taught them that needing something from someone is dangerous. And here's the thing, they're often completely unaware of this. The urge to withdraw doesn't feel like defense to them. It feels like a rational need for space. They genuinely believe they needed space. They weren't lying about that. The distance didn't feel like a choice. It felt like oxygen. And this is why I don't think it helps anyone to villainize them. But I also don't think it helps you to keep telling yourself they were fine, that they don't feel it, that nothing cracked when you finally genuinely stopped reaching. Something cracked. It always does. The thing people miss is that avoidants aren't uncaring. The deactivation isn't about not loving you. It's a nervous system that learned deeply that intensity is dangerous and built sophisticated machinery to lower it. The machinery doesn't mean there's nothing underneath. There is something underneath. There always has been. The tragedy is that the same system that created the distance now prevents them from fully reckoning with what they lost, until the weight of it becomes impossible to keep buried. And by the time that happens, by the time the suppression stops working, by the time the delayed processing surfaces, by the time the ghost of you gets louder than the distractions, you're already somewhere else. You're already building something new. You're already learning what it feels like to be chosen clearly, consistently, without having to decode mixed signals or earn basic emotional presence. That is not a consolation prize. That is the entire point. You didn't leave to make them feel it. You left because staying was costing you something real. Your self-respect, your certainty that your needs were legitimate, your ability to tell the difference between being loved and being tolerated. The fact that they feel it eventually, that the loss lands, that the attachment system finally wakes up, that's not your reward. That's not vindication. That's just what happens when you remove yourself from a dynamic that was never built to give you what you actually needed. You were never supposed to wait for that moment to arrive. You were supposed to leave before it ever did. And if you've already left, really left, not strategically left, not silently pleading left, but genuinely redirected your life and your energy back toward yourself, then you already did the hardest and most important thing. You chose yourself before they were ready to choose you, and you know what that makes you. Not the one who gave up, not the one who wasn't enough, the one who finally understood that love is not supposed to be this much work for just one person, the avoidant POV when they realise you're gone. It's grief on delay, longing wrapped in suppression, a recognition that arrives too late to change anything. Your story isn't about their realisation, it's about yours.